Welcome to the Courage, Coaching, and Counseling Podcast with Savon Penn, licensed professional counselor here in Portland, Oregon. Wherever you're at in life, this podcast will inspire and encourage you to be more brave in life and take the next best step between where you are and where you want to be. My guest for episode 21 of the podcast is Rhonda Marie Stalb. She is a therapist in Huntsville, Alabama, and she is also the author of her memoir, Beautifully Broken, My Journey to a Mended Heart. In this episode, we talk about her story of escaping from domestic violence to protect herself and also her children. She also shares how she healed from childhood neglect and how she helps her clients, individuals and couples in her counseling practice. She also shares some lessons that she's learned as a mom and also how her family has navigated a pandemic. I hope you enjoy this episode with Rhonda Marie Stalb. All right. Well, welcome to the Courage, Coaching, and Counseling Podcast. In this episode, I've got Rhonda Stalb, and she's a counselor from back east, and she's got an amazing story, a courageous story. So I'm so glad that you're here to share it with us, Rhonda.
Thank you, Savan. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So let's start with your background.
Well, I'm actually was raised on the Big Island of Hawaii, so I'm an island girl. So I was there from the age of 8 till about 11 years ago, raised by my grandmother because I didn't have parents. My mother died and my father, of course, left. But yeah, I was raised by my grandmother on the Big Island. And then 11 years ago, me and my children, my 3 children, moved to Huntsville, Alabama, to get out of the abusive cycle that we were in and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I've been in the Southeast for the last 11 years. My husband, Doug, and I moved to Tennessee in November of 2020.
Just moved.
Yeah, so we've been here about 4 months now.
Okay.
So that's pretty exciting. And I just recently got licensed in Tennessee, so I'm dually licensed now.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
So you lost your mother. How old were you?
I was 8 years old.
You were just 8.
She died of well, my family told me it was an embolism, but she went out partying the night before and it was a drug overdose. Accidental, but it was, yeah. So
yeah.
She was pretty depressed about losing, my father leaving, and she just was not in good shape at all. So she could have used a counselor, I think.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So you mentioned you moved 11 years ago to get away from a hard situation. Can you share a little bit more about
that? I was previously married for 15 years to my children's father. He's the father of all 3 of my children, and he abused my daughter, my youngest child, and I caught him red-handed and went through the full prosecution process, of course, and he was incarcerated for a long time. And so we left because it wasn't safe for us to be there anymore. And so and it was expensive, and I was trying to put food on the table for 3 kids, and it just wasn't working out anymore. So we went ahead and moved to Huntsville, Alabama with the help of a friend. And so we started this better, stable life. And, it wasn't perfect by any means, no. And there were still some things that we had to overcome and stuff like that. But we got into a place to live. We had a nice house, lived in a nice neighborhood, which we didn't really live in a very nice neighborhood in Hawaii.
Mm.
So it was better in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways it was a struggle too. So
Yeah.
mhm.
Wow. The uh when that happened, were you a counselor or
No,
studying
I was
at
not
that
a
time?
counselor yet. I was actually working in a preschool. I
Mhm.
was yeah, for a long time that was my pursuit, to be a early childhood educator. And so
Mhm.
I worked with 4 and 5 year olds at my church school.
Ah, yeah.
Uh-huh. And so I loved that job. It was great.
Mm.
I really loved it. And then for a while, to make ends meet, I worked as a barista at a coffee shop. so
Mhm.
so it wasn't until after, my daughter was in counseling for a while. I mean, I had wonderful counselors to help us. We had like what you call multi-systemic therapy, where
Mm.
they helped us in all the systems that we were involved in to see how it could be a detriment to us, or it could be a help to us, and try to overcome some of the things that we were going through. And
Mm.
so
Yeah.
the counselors I had for me and the kids were great. And so that really inspired me, especially one person. She's an actual LMFT. She I think her name is Trev. But yeah, she was like the best, and she really
Mm.
inspired me. So now that's one of the reasons why I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. So
Yeah. Wow. The
mhm.
oh, from what you went through, and then with your training, what are some of the lessons that you learned going through such a painful experience?
From my experience, or from being a counselor?
From what you went through with your the father of your children.
Well, I learned that the the relationship was extremely toxic, and I wasn't taught to what a healthy relationship looked like. I had to kind of learn by trial and error, because everything
Mm.
I saw, everything I experienced was completely dysfunctional.
Mm.
It was like there was no, I mean, I didn't really see love. I mean, love wasn't really present. It was just complete drama all the time, complete chaos. Just every day there was something wrong.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, it was scary. It was really scary. And I
Yeah.
was also taught to run away from my problems,
Mm. Mhm.
and not to face them head on. And so
Yeah.
yeah.
So what was that like for you? Then you would isolate
I would
or withdraw to your
isolate
room.
I would isolate, or kind of check out. I was an avid reader as a teenager, so I just
Mm.
buried myself in books.
Mm.
My favorite series was the Anna Green Gables series, so
Mhm.
I stuck my nose in a book all the time. Or
Yeah.
Little House, and that's all I did was read. And I didn't really go out with a lot of friends. I had one best friend in high school. And she was really the only friend that I associated with.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
so so books were your friends.
yeah,
And
books were my
you probably
friend.
related to Anne
Oh
and
yeah, I
without
loved
having
Anne.
her
Yeah,
parents. Yeah.
yeah, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
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 And I knew my current husband, Doug. We're going to be celebrating 10 years this November, and I knew he was a good man
Mm.
when I found out that he had the two movies of Anne and Green Gables. I'm like, who is this? This is like my guy. This is like my male counterpart. He is my
Yes.
guy.
Yes,
So
definitely. Props to any guy who will actually have the Anna Green Gables uh in his collection. You know,
you're right.
much less watch them, but like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So kindred spirits, right? Isn't
Yeah,
that
we
what
were
she calls them?
definitely
Yeah, kindred
yeah, he's
spirits. Yeah.
definitely a kindred spirit. And well, his sisters, he has 3 older sisters that are a huge influence on him, and they're just great sisters. Today's sibling day, so they're the best
Oh,
siblings I know.
nice,
So
nice, Rhonda.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So with the so you didn't have a picture of healthy relationships.
I did not.
So you were in that for a while.
Since I was 4, well, since I
Yeah,
was born, actually.
yeah,
So, but I can remember as far back as 4 years old, we just had to run away from my father into hotel rooms or friends' houses in the middle of the night. At one time, there was a threat that he was gonna blow up the car, or something stupid like that. But it was like weird. It was crazy, crazy, crazy all the time.
yeah, yeah.
So
What 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 have been some of the things that have helped you heal from your upbringing, or even
well, of course, counseling, lots and lots and lots of counseling, like in being surrounded by mentors and Celebrate Recovery saved my life.
mm, mhm,
It did. It
yeah,
like I went there and I was like trembling in my boots,
mm,
in my skin, and I was so scared that
mm,
people are gonna judge me. And I went there and I met Nancy, who has been a wonderful person to me. She was her husband Gary and her were the leaders at the time of Celebrate Recovery. And
can you share,
without
can you say a little bit more about Celebrate Recovery for those that don't know what that is?
Celebrate Recovery is a Christian-based 12-step program. It's like much like AA, which is the traditional 12-step program, except the higher power is Jesus Christ. So our mantra is, I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I struggle with whatever the blank is.
Mm,
And so he helps us with our struggles. And it was in addition to the treatment that I was receiving,
mhm.
because it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So
So you met with an individual therapist
uh-huh.
and then went to the Celebrate Recovery support group.
Right. I
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
years of deep, intensive counseling, like
Mm,
really deep counseling. And then
mhm,
I also, to supplement, I had the group therapy with the Celebrate Recovery. And you just had it just inspired you to be transparent, because it's like everyone was there. They were kind of like we were
they're working
like-minded
on their
people.
things.
They're
Yeah.
working on their thing, and so there was absolutely no judgment whatsoever, like
Mm,
none.
yeah.
People could be real.
Yeah.
So it was awesome.
Yeah. It that that is extremely healing to find a place
Hmm.
where you can just be yourself and share what you've been through.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
so you went through counseling and got support. What um how has it been um for your kids? You moved 11 years ago. How old were they when you had to move?
Well, let's see. My oldest, Jeremiah, he was 16. My other one was the one down from there, my middle one was 15. And then my daughter, she was 9.
Mm,
She was
mhm.
8 going on 9.
Yeah. So
And
a
so,
couple teenagers.
yeah, 2
Yeah.
teenagers and a,
Mhm.
a tween. I guess
I'm
between the
guessing
9, yeah.
Hawaii to Alabama might be a little bit of a culture shift
Oh yeah, it was
or
a
shock.
complete culture shock. We had to do a lot of adjustments.
Mm,
So yeah.
yeah.
So but
Yeah.
so yeah, it's been, people say that it's, hard to be parents of infants and toddlers and teenagers. It's not. It's harder to be a parent of adult children, excuse me, stumbled a little bit.
Mm,
Anyway, yeah, adult children are hard, because it's kind of like you have your heart walking on
mm,
the outside of you.
mm,
And they make choices that you're not always happy with, but they're adults. And it can be scary. It's almost like you see a train coming ready to hit them and you can do nothing to stop it.
Mm.
Because they have to learn, to see that train coming, and hopefully they make the choice to not get hit by the train. And
Right.
sometimes they get hit by the train,
Mm.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Our two oldest are out of the house, and our youngest Grace, she's going to be a senior next fall.
mm, mm,
Yeah, it's hard to let go, and it's hard to give them the freedom to
mhm,
make decisions. So,
right.
wh-
Mhm.
any advice, Rhonda, for moms who might be, or and dads who
Well,
are having a hard time with that?
I'm learning that you know you're not always going to approve of what they do, but it's not really about us. It's more about them and just loving them where they are, and
Mm,
of course, trying your best. But prayer, a lot of prayer,
mm,
praying for them, just praying for their safety, for their well-being.
mm,
Praying that they receive, what you try to impress upon them. But they don't always want to listen, and that that that's where you have to come to an acceptance that they're
mm.
not always going to listen to you,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
and you just have to accept them for who they are, because God loves them more than me. And he actually
It's
made
great to
he
remember.
made them, and so,
Hmm.
just like he knows every hair on our head, he knows every hair on their head. And so his plans are better. And
Mm,
I might have had a dream for them
mm,
that I thought might happen, but it didn't happen. And so I just have to accept it and be okay with it and just love them for who they are.
mm.
That's
Yeah,
all I can do.
yeah. It's
So,
it's hard to get to that point of peace and acceptance, and then
mhm.
and then you have to do it more than once.
Oh, every day.
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
day, every time I have a conversation with them,
Mm,
and they have to live their life, they have to learn, and they're still the people that God created them to created them to be at their very core. And
mm,
I just have to look look through the eyes of Jesus Christ at them instead of my own human frail eyes, because I'm not gonna see what Jesus sees if I look through my own eyes. So,
mm, mm.
yeah.
That's a great reminder, Rhonda.
Hmm.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the work that you do with your clients. What do you specialize in?
Well, I'm really working with a lot of people with relational trauma, and
Mm,
just overcoming dysfunctional family relationships. I work with a lot of married couples, and they're discovering that they have a lot of past things that they haven't really recognized or acknowledged.
mm,
And so I'm trying to help them be like, well, you can't heal what you don't acknowledge.
mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm helping them, make connections with each other by helping them overcome some of those past hurts.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
When a couple has kind of those past hurts that they haven't looked at, w- uh wh- what tends to happen? Like
They
when
have a lot, they have a lot of attachment issues. They don't have secure attachments. Like they have a lot of avoidant attachments or insecure attachments,
Mm,
because they didn't have parents that were responsive to them. Like
mhm,
when they're children, they cried or got hurt. They didn't have that response of a caregiver saying, it's okay,
mm.
to help them through it. It's kind of like suck it up, stop crying, or they just weren't there at
Or not
all.
not supported or
No,
neglected and not.
right. And
Yeah,
it's emotional neglect. It's
right.
plain
Right.
and simple. It's emotional neglect.
Yeah. So in relationship, can you describe for listeners what avoidant attachment and what anxious attachment look like?
Well, it's like a lot of pushing your partner or friends away, like people away, like avoiding any closeness or connection, um, being very anxious and not knowing what to do with the real love, like like being scared of it, like what is this, and you're still waiting for that shoe to drop. You're still the hyper vigilant, like wait, this is too good to be true.
Yeah.
And so you avoid it at all costs. You try to like run away from it, and it makes you just very scared and anxious, and you can have both at the same time, I think.
Yeah.
It's
I've seen that where
Mhm.
if you've got a spouse or partner who really cares and loves you, but it not feeling insecure
Mhm.
in it and questioning it, or like what you said, like waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
Where
I struggled early in my marriage with Doug with that a lot, but through counseling we were able to overcome, and now 10 years later we're still connecting.
yes, yeah,
So
that's
yeah.
great. Yeah,
Mhm.
it takes a lot of courage uh to stay in a relationship, to
Mhm.
try to stay connected when your instinct, your gut reaction is to want to run away or avoid.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
and
Yeah. And
and
it's nothing Doug was doing. He was just trying to be, and he just trying to love me,
mhm, mhm,
So,
yeah,
and he succeeded at loving me, definitely. So
yeah,
he just
yeah,
would not give up. He would
yeah.
not give up on me.
That's
So,
awesome. That's awesome.
uh-huh.
Yeah. So uh, the so you work with couples, um, and
Mhm.
individuals with relational trauma. Um, you you moved during pandemic. What are some of the lessons, Rhonda, that you've learned in this past year
Oh, and this past
during the
year,
the shutdown, and like with relationships or with your clients?
well, in the relational wise, I learned that the pandemic forced everybody, including myself, to really look at your relationship, because you're forced to be together 24/7. You couldn't be busy. You had to be present. You had to be
Mhm.
looking at the status of your relationship. What is really going on? Are we really connecting? And I think that one reason why the divorce rate went up, because people were forced to look at what was really going on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
The th- yeah, it definitely put a strain on relationships, whether
mhm.
it's uh, the strain of unemployment or being downsized, or just the strain, which sounds funny if you're married and in love,
Mhm.
but the strain of being together more, working from
Right.
home. Um,
Mhm. Well, there were some things that Doug and I had to look at in our own marriage. It's healthy. We do have a healthy marriage, but there were still some things that were going on in our extended family that were just. And so that's one of the reasons why we moved, is because we just had to get out of that toxic dynamic. We just couldn't do it anymore.
mm,
So we had to look. These kids are adults. They have to make their own decisions. And right now, Doug and I, we're the relationship that we have right now. So this takes precedence
mm,
over
mm,
anything else. And so we really had to make sure our
mm,
marriage was intact.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
It's a hard decision.
Very hard decision. Yeah. So we had to kind of let go a little bit and let the kids, you know, be on the, like, live on their own, pay their bills, do the responsible thing. They had to do that. So yeah.
What would you say to a mom or a parent who that the idea of that just seems scary? Like,
it is scary because of all the unknowns. I mean, you don't know what's gonna happen. This world is so dangerous for young people because they're so impressionable, and they get themselves into things, and it's scary. So a lot of the unknowns are scary. And yes, I want to help them, but I don't want to enable them either. There's a difference between helping and enabling. And it's like, if you're doing what they can do for themselves, then you're enabling. And so I had to really examine myself and say, I can't, I'm enabling. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. That's a hard transition. Because, for so long, you're helping them. You're
right.
growing them up. You're, and I like that. Like, at what point do you pull back and let them be adults? I like that. Not doing what they can do for themselves.
And even with my clients, I'm not their main problem solver. I'm not their main resource. There are a lot of resources, and so with my clients, I help them see what their inner resources are, whether it be their faith or anything else. And the same with my kids. I have to impress upon them that I'm not their only resource. They have other resources that they can rely on to solve the problem. I am not their main problem solver.
Yeah.
I can't be.
Yeah. That's empowering them to find other resources and kind of solve problems for themselves. That's big. Yeah. It no matter how old our kids get, like, we're still mom, we're still dad.
Right. And again, I'm going to repeat that toddlers, teenagers, babies, to me, that was a piece of cake compared to what it is now. So, yeah, really.
Okay. I'll try not to be too scared, or Rhonda. I'll try to remember what you shared. As a kid get older. No, I'm proud. I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
And, I'm hoping to ask my wife on the podcast, someday, for her to kind of share.
Yeah, I mean, we're always proud of our kids. I mean, they're our babies, they're our kids. I carried these three. They were, they're still close to my heart. Just I have to kind of take the apron strings and cut them off, cut those apron strings a little, and let them talk. It's like they're learning to walk. You have to let them fall on their butt sometimes, so they learn how to keep walking. So,
right.
Yeah.
So as we wind down our time today, is there any last thoughts or last lessons that you'd like to share?
That's a good question. Just, I guess, just know that God loves you. God loves us all, and the unknowns make us want to ask why this is happening, and it's hard to trust, but trusting and obeying, that's what I'm learning, and just to trust and obey, because if I do what I think is right, I'm gonna mess it up. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And whatever is in my head doesn't always have to come out of my mouth. Yeah.
Yes. That is easy to say, hard to
Right.
do consistently.
It's true.
Yeah.
And we don't have to walk around being a victim of our thoughts. We have more power over our mind than, because God gives us that power.
Yeah.
To look at our thoughts and say, wait a minute, this is not line up with who I am or the truth or anything, so it needs to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you to say a little bit more about that, Rhonda. When you were younger, or when you were in your first marriage, what were some of those thoughts that you struggled with, or that you had to
I'm worthless, I'm not enough, I deserve this treatment, I'm never gonna get out of here, I'd be better off dead. I mean, seriously, I was suicidal for a long time when I was early married. I don't think I had postpartum depression, but I did have a lot of the baby blues, especially after my first child. But I just wasn't getting any help, you know. And
it's
I would
a lot
just
to try to deal with on your own.
Yeah. And then I got pregnant with my second one when my first one was 3 months old. So yeah. And then I had another baby.
Yeah.
So I had 2 littles in diapers at the same time with no help. So I was in a dangerous mindset. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you took that courageous step to get out of that harmful relationship and environment, and just glad that you found a good man, and
he's the best.
and a good group, the Celebrate Recovery group, to heal, and now you're helping others deal with their own trauma, and helping them with their relationships. So thank you, Rhonda, for me. We've been friends for years online. It's fun to talk.
Exciting.
Today.
Thank you.
I'll be sharing your website in the show notes. And and definitely encourage folks that you're listening to read Rhonda's website. It's really amazing. She shares more about the trauma and the healing that she's been through in her life.
Yeah, you can read the website, Rhonda Marie Stalb, LMFT.com. Or I also have a book out on Amazon. It's called Beautifully Broken: My Journey to a Mended Heart. And it's all in there too. So
okay, great. All right. Thank you, Rhonda, for coming
Thank
on
you.
Today.
No problem. Bye.
It's amazing what Rhonda and her kids went through, and I'm glad she was able to take the courageous step to leave that situation for their safety and get the support that she needed to recover and heal from that. And I really appreciate the advice she had as a mom for us parents. You can learn more about Rhonda and her story on her website. I really like her website. It's really well done. Thank you for listening. Please rate and subscribe if you'd like to get notified of future episodes. And I'll see you next time.